Good evening and welcome to the Power of Red. I'm Michelle Wright, WTAE TV news anchor, and I'm really honored to be here to serve as your MC as we gather virtually this evening. Welcome to my living room. We're going to have a great time as we celebrate the great work of the American Red Cross in our area. And we're also going to present the Distinguished Leadership Award to a local corporation whose significant financial contributions have assisted us during some of the nation's largest disaster relief operations. Clara Barton, known as the Angel of the Battlefield for her support of the troops during the Civil War, actually founded the American Red Cross in 1881, starting a tradition of service based on emergency communications, volunteer service, and family resiliency, three pillars that continue to guide the Red Cross to this very day. 9 years later, in 1889, Clara and her team were mobilized for the very first time to provide disaster relief following a national crisis that actually occurred right here in Pennsylvania following the Johnstown flood. Now, 140 years later, the American Red Cross is most known for its ability to quickly mobilize people and resources needed to provide comfort and hope whenever and wherever disaster strikes. But the American Red Cross does much more than just provide relief following large-scale national disasters. And to help us better understand the impact of the Red Cross and what it does right here in our region, we have a 61 county greater Pennsylvania region I'm talking about. I want to invite Rhonda Edkins, Vice President of Audit Services at USAA and Chairman of the Board of the American Red Cross Southwestern Pennsylvania chapter, to join us now. Good evening, Rhonda.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Michelle. It is so nice to be here, and I am so glad you were all able to join our virtual Power of Red event. I'm always humbled by the support our community gives to the American Red Cross. With this support, your support, we would not be able to help our neighbors prepare for, respond to, and recover from emergency situations. Your gift of time, talent, or treasure enables the Red Cross to build more resilient communities that are better equipped to respond to disaster situations, big and small. Last fiscal year alone, the Red Cross here in Greater Pennsylvania assisted nearly 7,400 individuals following local disaster situations, most of which were home fires. As you probably already know, we provided the basics: food, clothing, and shelter. But there was much more. Our caseworkers and mental health professionals continued to work with those we served in the days and weeks following the incidents, providing hope to those who lost everything and guidance to those with nowhere else to turn. And a family required services that were outside of our ability to handle. We referred them to one of our many partner organizations that work closely with us in the community. The Greater Pennsylvania teams, both staff and volunteers, selflessly deployed throughout a historic disaster season that brought hurricanes, flooding, and wildfires across our country. This work continued uninterrupted through a global health crisis, the COVID-19 pandemic. We adapted and found new and creative ways to deliver critical services throughout the region and the country, and even added new missions, all the while keeping the health and the safety of our workforce and those we serve at the highest priority. Since the onset of the pandemic in March 2020, the Southwestern Pennsylvania chapter has joined countless feeding missions with area partners to provide over 890,000 meals to food insecure families, frontline medical workers, and senior citizens in the Pittsburgh area. Much of this work delivered by a dedicated team of Red Cross volunteers who contributed more than 2,000 hours of their time. In addition to feeding missions, we have also supported vaccination distribution sites throughout the region and here at home. Since distribution began, more than 38,500 vaccines have been provided at locations supported by Southwestern Pennsylvania Red Cross team. These distribution sites continue to be staffed and supported by Red Cross volunteers who have to date donated over 3,000 volunteer hours. Amazing. Our Service to the Armed Forces program provided more than 5,700 services to our military families and veterans. Red Crossers delivered emergency messages to those deployed throughout the world, held countless resiliency workshops, and participated in events aimed at helping homeless veterans. Finally, we collected over 111,000 units of blood last year that in turn were used to save the lives of people suffering medical emergencies. All this was made possible by a network of more than 3,300 Greater Pennsylvania Red Cross volunteers who answered the call to serve at any time of the day or night. The impact of the American Red Cross is delivered through this extensive network of volunteers, but also through the support and generosity of our donors and partners. As we've seen the best in humanity in times of crisis and disaster, we've also seen partners step to the forefront to ask, how can they help? What can they do to best support the Red Cross? And where can they make the most difference for those in need? We are proud to recognize those who go above and beyond in helping to deliver the Red Cross mission. To present tonight's Distinguished Leadership Award, Patricia Waldinger, Chief Executive Officer of the American Red Cross, will join us to honor a partner who has done just that.
Thank you, Rhonda, for that warm introduction and for sharing a little of our history and the inspiring impact of our teams that they've had throughout this past year. And thank you all for being here this evening, for your support. While we are not in person, and I wish we were, so I could greet each of you, your support is palpable. We know you're there, and for that, I sincerely thank you. As Michelle mentioned earlier in the program, we're here tonight to recognize a longtime supporter of the American Red Cross whose significant financial contributions have assisted us during our nation's largest disaster relief operations, PPG. For decades, PPG has supported the mission of the Red Cross. They have partnered through the storms and hurricanes throughout the United States and have provided generous disaster relief for each response, including our international relief operations. This while simultaneously supporting our Red Cross preparedness and safety programs, such as our Home Fire campaign and our Sound the Alarm events. Most recently, PPG supported the Red Cross missions that we carried out through the COVID pandemic, as Rhonda was talking about. PPG's generous contributions help to ensure the vital delivery of our services and programs to individuals and families through these unprecedented times. PPG also encourages employee giving by launching microsites, even initiating their own employee giving program, enabling PPG staff not only to give during disasters, but also throughout the year. PPG matches employee donations and supports staff volunteerism with the Red Cross. It is with the help and the support of thousands of employees that PPG has made this positive impact across the world and here at home in Southwestern Pennsylvania. PPG knows the most powerful way to make a difference is when employees lead the way. This outstanding commitment to the Red Cross mission is why we're presenting this year's Distinguished Leadership Award to PPG. Not only is PPG a strong partner to the American Red Cross, but they're also an outstanding supporter to our community. Before PPG Chairman and Chief Executive Officer Michael McGarry accepts tonight's award, I'd like to share a brief video highlighting this commitment. Congratulations, and thank you so much, Michael.
Well, thank you very much, Patricia. And it's my great pleasure to be here this evening and to accept this beautiful Red Cross Power of Red Recognition Award on behalf of all PPG associates around the world. Thank you very much. It's quite an honor. As you saw in the video, every day, PPG people set out to protect and beautify the world through our paints, coatings, and specialty materials, and also through our actions and community commitments. The global virus pandemic has emphasized the importance of resiliency in every element of our lives, and especially in our connections to one another and our communities. The events in the past year have certainly triggered unprecedented impacts, but these events have also provided remarkable opportunities to reach out to others, to act with solidarity and a strong focus as we confront the most difficult challenges and immediate needs in our communities. And through so many of these difficult recent times, the Red Cross has served on the front lines. We are so proud to stand with you and to support your excellent efforts with our funding, our volunteer efforts, our enduring commitment to the mission that you continue to serve so well. In our global headquarters of Pittsburgh and across many regions of the world, we've experienced a nearly decade-long collaboration to serve vulnerable populations together. And PPG and the Red Cross have united to revitalize communities following natural disasters and unforeseen hardships, both here at home and around the world. When COVID first impacted China, together we were there. When bushfires devastated Australia, together we were there. And following Hurricanes Dorian, Florence, Harvey, Irma, Matthew, together we were there. Following a year of much uncertainty, tonight's event undoubtedly marks a bright moment and recognizes the incredible and indelible impacts that are possible when a community unites. On behalf of PPG, we want to thank the American Red Cross Greater Pennsylvania region for your partnership, unparalleled efforts, love and compassion in helping our neighbors when a crisis arises. All of us at PPG are grateful for this honor, and we're happy to be with you here virtually to paint the night away. Thank you very much.
Michael McGarry, congratulations. Nice for you guys to be in Pittsburgh. The Red Cross has been busy and needs your help. And so you came through and we appreciate that. While we can't applaud PPG this evening, we can show a virtual round of applause. So let's applaud at home. Supporting tonight's event and helping us recognize the commitment and impact of PPG to the Red Cross mission are our event sponsors. So I'd like to take a moment now and extend a special thanks to all of them. Pay attention. We really do appreciate them. Of course, our title sponsor, PPG. At the hero level, Pittsburgh Penguins and the Pittsburgh Penguins Foundation. PNC. At the champion level, Deloitte. UPMC. United States Steel Corporation. At the patron level, Dickie McCamey, EY. And at the friend level, K&L Gates, Coppers, PJ Dick Trumbull Lindy Paving, also the United Steelworkers, and the University of Pittsburgh. Other Red Cross Power of Red supporters include Highmark, Jones Day, KPMG, and Key Bank. And also, we want to thank Dick's Sporting Goods for their generous support of the Disaster Responder Program. Finally, we would like to recognize the United Way of Southwestern Pennsylvania for their continued support of our mission. Now, as we move through this evening's program, I want to remind you the silent auction will remain open through 7 p.m. So this means there's still plenty of time to bid on your favorite items. If you are on a computer or a laptop, to the left of your screen, you're going to see the links to bid on some fabulous items and make a financial donation to support the Red Cross mission. If you are on your cell phone, you will likely see these links below your screen. If you were on any screen of any kind, you will see the link somewhere. So look around and support us. You can also do this. You can text SWPA Power of Red to the number 76278. And when prompted, enter your contact information and then let the bidding begin. As a note, I should add that the Red Cross does not endorse any of the services or products being auctioned off this evening, with the exception, of course, of the Red Cross branded products. So thank you, everyone, for your support. This is a really important night. So thank you for participating and for your generous support. Earlier, we heard about the difference the Red Cross is making in communities here in Southwestern Pennsylvania. Now, I'd like to share with you a short video highlighting some of this life-changing work that has taken place over the past year during a pandemic that took so much from so many. Just incredible to see that. That's just a powerful video showing the need. We heard earlier that disasters did not stop through the pandemic, but to realize that the Red Cross continued not just to respond to the everyday disasters, to deliver help and hope to so many people that needed it over the past year. They did much more than that over the year. They helped families grieve. The Red Cross launched a virtual family assistance center in 2020 to help support families who lost loved ones during the pandemic, providing mental health, grief counseling, and psychological first aid services, in addition to connecting family to important resources to manage the logistics of funerals and memorials during this difficult time in our nation's history. That is a tremendous reflection of the Red Cross's dedication to their mission. The American Red Cross prevents and alleviates human suffering in the face of emergencies by mobilizing the power of volunteers and the generosity of donors. This work, the difference the Red Cross makes, the help and the hope they provide, is all made possible by the generosity and the support of you, the Red Cross donors. You can help ensure that help is always available for our neighbors and communities here in Pittsburgh and across the entire greater Pennsylvania region by making a donation now. Text SWPA Power of Red to 76278 or go to swpapowerofred.givesmart.com and you can make a donation. So important, especially this year. You might want to take a look at your text and your emails too. You most likely gave us a link that we could send to you. So take the time and do that now before we enjoy the rest of the evening. Of course, we really appreciate your generosity, and it's so important this year more than ever. So thank you for that. All right, are we ready for tonight's painting demo? I'm excited to introduce Maria DeSimone Prasic of Maria's Idea. We've met before and I've seen your art. You are a tremendous artist. So while I'm really excited about this tonight, I'm also a little intimidated. Maria, welcome.
Hi, Michelle. It's so great to be here. I can't wait to get started. And it's even better if you've never painted before, because you're going to learn how to do this and you will be able to do it. So you have to make sure you do, because I want to see this. I want to see yours at the end of this.
All right, I'm ready.
So we're ready to go. I'll walk you through everything step by step. So no worries there. So, all right, we're ready to get started. Let me move this. So we are going to paint this landscape with a flowering tree. We're using a PPG paints can lid and PPG paints, beautiful colors here. So I will keep this one and refer back to it so you can see what we're going to paint, but we're going to focus on this one right now. All right. So you have 2 brushes in your kit. We're going to use the flat brush, 1/4 inch flat brush. And we are going to just dip this in the water. Tap it in the water, and take the extra water off just on a paper towel or just even your fingers, just to get the bristles in the brush, just to connect them a little bit better so that they're not flopping around there. So now we're going to use the first color is the Transcend, which is this beautiful tan. If the paint looks like it's possibly separated a little, that's just what happens with paint when it sits just for a little bit. So we're just going to mix that up just a little. Take the extra paint off, just scrape it on the side of your little pot here, not too much paint. What we're going to do is mark our area where we're going to start, draw a couple lines, then we're going to fill them in. So it's just going to be like a paint by number. So it's very easy. So just eyeball the center, above, below, horizontal, vertically, just put a little dash right there. You can see that's somewhere in the center. It doesn't have to be exact. You don't have to match my painting exactly. This is just inspiration. Now, what we're going to do is once you have that center, we're going to draw a wavy line to the left and then to the right, just like that. Just more wavy, the better. Just don't worry about that being too straight in any way. All right. So we did that. And also you can paint the sides of the lid too, but you can always do that tomorrow or later on. We're not going to worry about getting all these edges perfectly. It's easier once this dries to hold the lid and do that another time. So we have our center line. Now about a 1/2 inch above, we're going to create the suggestion of these distant mountains. So just very jaggy line, just real quick, just like that. Okay. And then about a 1/2 inch below that center line, I'd say probably not as jagged of the line, but just kind of a little wavy, just like that. Now we already have our horizon, we have our mountains and the placement of our little distant forest. So that was easy enough right there. Now I'm going to just take my paper towel and just take the extra paint off. I'm not even worried about rinsing it because these paints are all going to mix together as we create this anyway. And sometimes I like when you see the different colors in there. So we are going to use the Misty Aqua. We're going to paint the sky area, the entire thing. So I am going to just give that a quick stir. When you're painting this larger area, I would say lay the paint on heavy, but not to the point where you have big puddles and it's not going to dry on us because we only have about a 1/2 hour. We want to make sure we can get this all done. So I applied my paint to the brush and I'm just going to push it right in here in the groove from the lid. And I will paint this lip here. And you can see I'm holding my brush. Let the brush do the work for you. Let that wider area of that brush cover and then just come in. You can see I have a large amount of paint there, but then I'll just push it around. No need to worry about going any one particular direction with painting. This is a more stylized or expressionistic type of a painting. So if you see some brush strokes in there, I think it makes it more interesting. And as we come along, to cover up this line a little bit. I mean, you don't have to cover it entirely. It depends on how wide your line is. I'm going to make sure the white is gone though, between the sky and the top of the mountains. And if some of that tan is still a little wet and mixes in, that's cool. That'll just be part of it. And we're just going to go like this. I'll use up to get that paint off of both sides of the brush. I'll flip my brush from, each side just to get that extra paint and just kind of push it around. If you see any puddles of paint, try to just blend them out so that it will dry again in time for us. So there we have our skies is all filled in. Okay. And once we did that, I am going to use the same brush. No need to rinse your brush because we want the sky color and the color of the mountains. We want to mix a tone, which I'm going to show you on my palette here. So anytime you're mixing a color, it's often easier to do it on a separate palette or something. A lot of times I will mix directly right on the canvas, but for this, I want to make sure that I have the right color. So I'm going to take that Misty Aqua, I'm going to put some on my palette, and then I'm going to make sure I have the excess paint off and just take the corner into like the edge of the pot so you're not contaminating that transcend color. I'll just go right in, put the corner of my brush in there. I'm going to put that next to the Misty Aqua on my palette. And now I'm going to grab them both and mix and get a tone that's darker than the sky. You can still see some of that tan. What this is going to do by mixing that sky color in, it's going to give it a cohesive look, but it will create a bit of distant atmospheric view of the mountains, called atmospheric perspective, if you will, and then just paint that right in there. When things are in the distance, they're foggier, they're faint, their colors are more faint. So if you drive down the road, you look at the mountains or the distant trees, you'll notice they are not as bold and vivid as the things in the foreground. So we want these to be a little subtle so that our tree on top will stand out. So you can see I'm just mixing that color and I'm still mixing it on the lid as well. And now make sure you cover up that tan line. And you can still see it looks a little bit darker at the top. That's okay. That gives it some interest here. And there's our mountain, and acrylic paints dry a little bit darker. So you will see this will show up a little better as it dries. Now I'm even going to take a little bit more of that Transcend, and I'm going to imagine that the sun is shining. My light source is on this left side. So that will put some shadows on my mountains on the right side. So I'm just going to grab a little bit of that tan and just pop some of that in there. And let those brush strokes show, let the brush do the work for you there, okay? Now that gives you some little bit of shadowing on there in the mountains. So remember, when we paint our tree, where that light source is. Okay, now I'm going to take, using the same brush, just going to take the extra paint off. Again, I like to mix when the colors mix together on the artwork. So we're going to take this beautiful green French Market, and I'm going to put some on my palette again. Now we want this green to also be a little bit more subtle than the green that's going to be in the foreground. So I'm going to mix a little bit of that aqua in with the green. So it's a very subtle blue green, and maybe a little, I'm going to take a tiny bit of this French Toast. So it has kind of like a dirty, subtle gray, green blue. Now what I'm doing here is I'm going to hold the brush like this. And I'm going to, so I'm holding it vertically, and I'm going to lay the brush down on the lid, and I'm going to just pounce and pick the brush up, push it up, down, so that what we're doing here, I'm going to make mine a little bit darker so that you can see. This is the suggestion of trees in the distance. So when you look at trees in nature, they're not perfectly smooth. You're going to see the different peaks and valleys of the tree. So you can see if I do this, just very quickly pounce up and down, just push. And I'm going to load a little bit more paint on here. And again, covering up that line. And then I'll fill in, I'll just grab a little bit more of the green here. I mean, we do want it to be green, but we don't want it to be the solid green that it is. We want this to blend in the distance a little bit. Okay, so now we have sky, mountains, and our distant trees. So let them be irregular. Nothing in nature is perfectly straight. So I would say, let them go up a little in some areas and lower in other areas where those trees, the suggestion of those trees would be. And I would say at this point, I'm going to rinse my brush just to get some of that green off, because we're going to use Red Cross Red next. And we don't want that to be too dirty looking. We're going to mix a little bit of the tan in with that, but don't necessarily want that green in there. So I'm rinsed my brush. All right, and then I'm going to dip into my Red Cross Red. This is a pretty color. I'm putting that on my palette. I am going to mix a little bit of the Transcend. Going to take that, put that again next to that on my palette, and mix a color that I like that is not using the straight red, because we want that for the flowers on the trees, and everything in the foreground should be bolder and brighter. So these things are in the distance. We want them to appear as though they are in the distance. So we need to tone them down just a little. All right, so let's do this. Now I'm going to use the same technique that I did for the trees, and I'm actually going to cover up a little bit of that as well when I paint this, but this could be a row of flowering shrubs or whatever you want this to be. Rose bushes, it's your painting. So this could be anything you'd like. So I'm going to come in here, and I think I'll just just grab the brush and just do a quick line like this. Just turn the brush flat and let that edge of that brush lay on the can, and just pull your hand across. And now I'll come up and just basically same thing I did with the trees. We'll kind of mimic that a little. Maybe where it comes down in the tree area, I'll go up and just to alternate where it's, you know, higher and lower in those different spots. So there we have a little suggestion of that. I feel like it's a little too straight there. So I'm going to just dip right into my green, since the green is above, and I'll mix that in. And you guys can come back in anytime and create more detail and paint more on these, you know, tomorrow, a week from now, a month from now. You can play around with it as much as you'd like, but it's quite small. So I don't think you have to worry about getting too much detail in here, but you certainly can add to it if you'd like. All right. And so there we have our sky, our mountains, our trees, and our little shrubs. I'm going to rinse my brush. We'll see how Michelle's doing when we get back to her. I'm anxious to see that. I'm sure it'll be beautiful. All right. Not sure where everyone is, if you're caught up here. I know I'm painting a little quickly here. I'll just take a minute and explain how I put a ribbon on this can. I turned it around. You don't do this on your kitchen counter or anything, maybe like outside or in a workshop somewhere. I put from the backside a nail in the little groove here, hit it with the hammer to create the hole. And then I just put a little ribbon through there. You can use this to hang as an ornament or wall decoration. You can also use a magnet. It's just a magnet here. And you can attach that to, it just pops on the back, a file cabinet or a refrigerator, or you can also use an office clip. And you can just clip that on the can and if you wanted to hang it. So just a couple ways to hang them there. So, all right, we are going to do this pathway now. So I'm going to take the French toast, same brush still, because we are able to use it on its edge so we can get a thinner line. So right now we don't want too much paint on there, but we definitely want to take that extra paint off and make sure your brush, your bristles are nice and smooth. And I'm going to lay the brush down, just lay that edge down. And I'm just going to pull it across. And again, you don't want this to be too straight either. Just grab there. So this is to show you this is the line. We're going to cover some of this up, but this will give you an idea of where this pathway, this is back in here. So once we do that, we still have the same color on my brush. On the right side, maybe about a ½ inch down, I'm just going to come in about an inch or so, just like that. And then grab my brush and just pull the paint over there. Okay. And on the opposite side, I would say try not to line this one up exactly. I'm going to go a little bit lower than this one. And I'm going to come over a couple inches so that we leave about, an inch, inch and a quarter here. Just come over and then bring it back. And I'll go over to the right again, and then just bring it back over and off to the side. So what that did was that creates our pathway. And then we're just going to fill that in with the Transcend Tan. Now this is a brown, that's a tan. So again, no need to really rinse your brush. You can if you want to, but I'm just going to dip right into that tan color and just paint. Now the direction of the paint, I would suggest painting from left to right and or at least, horizontally, so that the actual texture and the paint laying on the can will mimic perhaps the ground or gravel or soil in the pathway. I'm just going to paint Just fill that in. And I am purposely covering up some of that darker color so it's not too cartoony looking. Get down in there. And now just go all the way down to the bottom. And the same with the sky. If you have any puddles of paint, try to smooth those out a little just so they dry. This is drying quickly and it's covering really nice, as you can see. So we don't have to worry about a second coat or anything on here. Honestly, I think you should paint a room one of these colors to match your artwork. I could definitely see that misty aqua in a bedroom or bathroom, really calm, pretty color. Any of these colors are really pretty for a room. Okay, so there we have our pathway. And let's see, I'm going to paint this section in here, the green as well. We have a couple minutes and then we're going to let this dry. And we'll come back and finish that. But I'm going to paint the green as well. I'm going to dip right into that French market green just as it is in the pot. I'm not worried about mixing it with anything this time. Let's put that right in here. And I'm using still that same brush and just pop that in here in this little section. And then the one on the left side. You can leave some of that darker French toast, that brown, if you'd like. And I am getting a little bit on the edges I'm painting, but again, once this dries, I would say later tonight or tomorrow, you can hold that in your hand and paint the edges, match the colors to the artwork. And then that way you'll have a nice, pretty edge. And there we have our pathway. Okay. And I think that's it. I'm just going to let this dry. So we can take a break. We can go back to Michelle for a minute. And when we come back, we will finish the painting. Can we see? Oh, it's great. It's beautiful. You have a landscape, a path. You have, I told you could do it.
Now yours looks better. Yours looks more smooth, but okay, I'm letting this dry. So is everybody, I hope you guys at home are having fun too.
Not grading anything. No, there should be no grades in artwork. No, everyone should look different. I hope they all look different. This is just a suggestion. That's all. It looks great.
I learned a lot. All right, as we wait for our keepsakes to dry, I'd like to take a second now to talk a little bit more about why we're here for tonight's Power of Red. It's stories like the COVID-19 video that we saw earlier highlighting the work of the Red Cross throughout the pandemic that truly exemplifies the work of the Red Cross and the mission to help humanity. This work is made possible by charitable donations from partners and sponsors, and of course, supporters like all of you who have joined us from home this evening. I'd like to share another video now. It's short, and it was produced pre-pandemic, just to let you know, so you won't see any mask or social distancing as we've become so accustomed to these days, and that's why it was pre-pandemic. The video highlights all the important work of the Red Cross, teaching life-saving first aid training, delivering emergency communications for our nation's military from across the globe, responding to a disaster, educating families on home fire safety, and of course, meeting the critical need for blood and platelets. The Red Cross is there providing help and hope.
Layla, we're so glad to have you back. Who's this?
This is Rosie. She makes me feel better.
Your babysitter is only 16 and she knows CPR?
And she's first aid certified.
That's why I hired her.
What's this? It's our home fire escape plan. I hope my parents come up with it.
They got in touch with his commander. They're bringing him home. He's gonna make it on time.
We already have like 40 people signed up.
I just got 3 more.
We should do this every semester.
They need it.
She's gonna be okay.
They were able to get her transfusion right away.
Oh, thank goodness.
So I heard you actually saved that little kid.
Yeah, I really did.
Every day, the American Red Cross helps thousands of people.
It's not the things we lost I remember. It's the kindness and generosity was given to us. That's what I remember.
With your support, the American Red Cross gives life. How can you help? Go to redcross.org.
Okay, welcome back, guys. You didn't finish these paintings, did you? All right, let's grab your other brush that came in the kit and the brush that we were using, put that in the water so it doesn't dry out. The paint dries very quickly. All right, so we're going to use the little liner brush here. We do need to wet that and take the extra water off and just roll the bristles either in your finger or on a paper towel to make sure that they come together and create that nice little point. All right. Okay, so we are going to paint the tree. My paint looks dry. There are a couple little spots where it's a little wet, but don't worry about that. If it blends into something else that we're painting, it's not going to be a problem at all. So we're going to paint this tree. Now we are going to dip into this French toast, give that a little stir again. Now what I'm doing here too is any brush that you're using, whatever shape the brush is, when you add the paint to the brush, you want to keep the bristles in the same direction that they naturally are. So you don't want to smash your brush on the palette or whatever. You want to just, for this one, since it's a liner, we're just going to roll it gently. And what that does, that keeps the shape, it keeps our point, and it spreads the paint around evenly. So we have nice coverage there, and we can, as we paint, we don't have to load too much. So just something like that. Now we're going to paint this trunk of the tree. You don't have to make it look just like mine, right? This is just to give you an idea of what we can do. So I'm going to just put a little dot right here just to give me a line where I'm going, a little mark we're going to start. I'm going to take my brush and I'm holding it vertically, but I put my hand up above, and because we want to pull it up. It's a little bit easier to control in the way the bristles are in the brush to let the brush do the work for you. So we put that little dot, I'm putting my hand this way, and you just got to go for it. If you take too long, you might feel like you're going to mess it up, but you don't worry about that. Just do this. Just like that. Quick little line. Because if you do it a little quicker and you don't think about it, it won't be so perfect and it'll look more like a tree. So that's what we want. So that's our left side of the tree. And then the right side, I'm going to just same thing, just kind of beside it, maybe just twirl it a little, wiggle it, just kind of do something like that. And there we have our tree. Now we're going to fill this in and create the branches. Now, while I still have my nice little tip here on the brush, I'm going to make sure I'm rolling this again, just to make sure I don't have too much paint on there to get that nice little tip. And this is important as you go to do these limbs here. You don't want too much paint. I'm going to lay the tip down and just kind of roll it and wiggle it and twist it. And as you get to the edge of wherever you want that branch to stop, lift up, and that will create a smaller line. Going to do another one here. So I have two on that side. We can bring this one down. You also would want to bring a couple branches over top of the mountain and some of these distant trees. What that does is help the mountains and the trees appear to be more distant because the branches are in the foreground. They're in front of that. And now I'm going to put another limb here. Wherever you could do more or less branches, whatever you'd like. It's your tree. I am going up over top. All right, so just like that. And now we're going to fill it in. I'm going to keep some of that dark brown. I'm going to grab that Transcend color, and I'm going to just let them mix right in on the tree trunk. Now I feel like that's too light. I'm just going to mix. And just if you do some dashes, some brush strokes like this, instead of just pulling it like we did to establish a tree, it will look more like bark. And then also remember our light source. Our light source is coming from the left side. So I'm going to hit the left side of the tree with just that tan, just like that. I'm even going to put a little tiny bit of white on there. Oop, there was some water in there. Because our light source is on the left side, we want that to be a little bit lighter on that left side. And then I can come in. I'm not even rinsing my brush. I'm just dragging the extra paint off on my paper towel. Take that French toast color. And I'm just going to make sure it's nice and dark on this right side, because that would be more in shadow. Okay, so we have our tree trunk. And again, if you just don't try to be too perfect with it, the more irregular it is, the more lifelike it would be. And not that we have to get every little detail in here either, but it will establish the look of, bark on a tree. All right, so there we have our tree trunk with some nice little bark there. And you can see this tree does not look like that one, and yours won't look like mine, and that's okay. Yours can be thicker or thinner, but I'm imagining this to be maybe a little dogwood, or it's some type of a flowering tree, so it wouldn't be as massive. And now I'm going to rinse my brush, and we're going to do the leaves. We're going to use the same small brush, dip the green, put some on my palette, that French Market. Okay, and I'm going to put some white beside it, and I'm going to take some of that Transcend, the delicate white. And so I have all three colors here. And the reason for that is I'm going to triple load my brush as I paint these leaves. I don't want every leaf to be the same color or tone. Some might be all green, some might be a mix of the white and the green or the tan. So I'm just going to dip just like this at random and just tap your brush. And what you want to do here, instead of worrying about having that tiny little chiseled tip, you want maybe a little ball of paint on the end. And when you lay your brush down and you just push and lift up, that will create your little leaf shape. I'm going to make mine some of them a little bit darker so you can see. Now, you could, push your brush down, pick up, turn the direction of your hand, push down, pick up, and just randomly dab your leaf shape. You can see that has more tan because the light is hitting the leaves. So every leaf, like I said, some would be darker, some would be lighter, and cover up some of these branches. And then if you feel like it's too full or you covered up too many branches, you can come back in with that darker brown, the French toast color, and you can add more. Now, I want these leaves to show up in front of this mountain, so I'm purposely going to make them a little darker. And that's pretty much it for the leaves. So we're just going to I'm going to fill that in, just dab them here and there. If you want them to come forward a little bit more and be brighter, add the white. The light colors come forward and dark colors tend to recede. Okay. And once this dries, I feel like I may want to even pop a little bit of that sky color in between the leaves if I covered up too much of the sky.
All right, Maria, I'm working on it. The leaves are a little tough for me. I'll show you in a second, but I want to interrupt just a second and give everybody a heads up. We have 5 more minutes to complete our Power of Red paint can lids, and mine is turning out okay, right? I am in awe, though, of how easy you made it look, right?
Okay.
Should I show my painting so far?
I love it. It's fab.
You got yours. I'm learning.
Hang it under that tree on your wall there when you're done. All right.
I'm working on it, but it's not not as good as yours, but I'm learning. So that's good. It's a great keepsake for all of us.
It looks good.
It does. I'm excited about it. So are we ready? Should we start wrapping things up? I know it's almost time as we wrap up this year's virtual Power of Red. I do want to thank all of our Distinguished Leadership Award winner, PPG, as well as this evening's sponsors, Maria, of course, the board chair, Rhonda Edkins, and on behalf of the American Red Cross Southwestern Pennsylvania, all of you for your attendance and your fun and your participation and really your generous support, because all of the work done this year by the Red Cross is so critical as they help those in need, and the need was really great this year. Lastly, I want to remind everybody it's not too late to place a bid on your favorite auction items, and the bidding will continue until 7 o'clock. Look through, there's a lot of great things. I know you want to bid on them, but again, it's open until 7 o'clock, and you can text SWPA Power of Red. Maria, thank you as we wrap things up. Great job showing us what can be done, and you're so creative, and I love your work. So I guess that wraps things up. I'm going to touch up my painting here, but I want to say thank you. I'm Michelle Wright from WTAE TV. WTAE and Hearst Corporation really does support the Red Cross. Now, typically, this is the time when I would say, be careful driving home, but I don't have to say that because we're virtual. So I just have to say, enjoy your evening and have a wonderful night. Thanks for joining us. Maria, have a good night.
Thank you. You too. Thank you all. Okay, welcome back, everyone. We're going to just do our little flowers on the tree, which are the same technique that we use for the leaves. And you can just, I would suggest probably not as many as the leaves you have, but same technique, just dabbing that red and just a couple little dots here and there. You can do in groups of maybe 3 or 5 and just toss them around here and there. You can put more or less on there if you'd like. And then some little white dots here and there to break up those little red flowers. You can put some at the bottom. And I also just did the suggestion of some little grasses with the green. Just pull your little brush up like that. And I put some highlights here. We put a couple little here. And you can come back in and you can add as much detail or highlights and shadows as you'd like and finish up your edges on your own. But I hope you had a good time and maybe learned something new and enjoyed painting with us. So thank you so much. Have a good night.